Welcome. So just a quick video on how to use setters and getters in Godot 4, since it did change a little bit from Godot 3. So I have a little sample project, and I'll put that in on GitHub if you want to kind of play around with this yourself. But the basic idea is for a setter and getter is when you have a variable and it changes, or you access it and you want to be able to run some code. So in this example, what we're going to be doing is anytime the player's health changes or it's damaged, we are going to update this health bar to either we'll just do shrinking, but it'll still work if you added it. And just to kind of walk you through the project, I've already done most of the setup, so we don't have to go through that. And it's going to use some signals between the button to signal to change the health variable on the player and that. So if we just come to the player here, I've just set up a little brief player thing, and as you can see, we have a max health that is going to represent the player's maximum health available, and obviously it can be changed as you get health pickups or whatever. And then you have the player's actual health, and right now it's just set to an int. But this is the variable we're going to use to use the setters and getters on. And then if we come to the world script, just to show you how this project is set up, I have two bars. They're just color rectangles. The first is called health bar empty, and as you can see, it's just a white rectangle representing the maximum health. And then above that, or drawn over that, is the actual health bar, and we're going to be affecting the size of that. So if you look here, I have some code set up where we're going to set the health bar size, and that's going to be based on the fraction of the health that the player has, and so it's going to be the player's health divided by the player's max health, and that's going to tell us what fraction of the bar we need to fill. You do need the float, since I used two ints there. If you do integer division, it'll just truncate to 0, and that's not what we want. So I've casted the player's health to a float. And then since size of the color rect is a vector, we're going to take the max width and multiply that by the health fraction, and then of course the y height of the new bar should remain the same. And then we're just going to set the size of the health bar to the new size. I've wired up a couple signals, and like I said, I'll link to, I have a much longer video for how to wire up signals, but the basic idea is the button is wired to this on button press method, and we're just going to subtract the player's health, and I just have a little debug to show the health bar size as we change it. And then we have the set health bar size to linked up to the player's health change signal. So anytime the health change signal is emitted, it will call this function to update the size of the health bar. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the actual code we need. And like I said, when we update the player's health, by subtracting or damaging it, we're going to have that call a method. So how do we do the get and set? The syntax for Godot 4 is a little bit convoluted, but what you come here is after you've declared your health. I've typed it as an int, and it equals the max health. When it's initialized, I'm going to do another colon at the end, and now I'm going to type set, or let's do get first, and then you do another colon. And you can do pretty much the only thing you're going to do with the get is return the variable. Now, just for the sake of showing you that when you access a variable, something will happen, I'm just going to print health was accessed. And we can even print out the current health. So that's %d, and then another %, and we'll do health. It'll print out the health, and then it'll just return the health. But pretty much you can just do return health. And now the more complicated one will be set. And set will need a value that's passed to it, which is going to be the new value that gets set. And you put another colon after that, and now we're just going to set the value. So we're just going to equal health equals the value. You want to be careful not to do like plus equals or minus equals, because that's not going to get you the behavior you want. remember, in the code you call, you're going to do the plus equals to a new value, and that value will get passed in. So you pretty much just want to, I think in most cases, just want to set the health. I'll show you what happens at the end if you do like a plus equals instead of just setting it to the new value. But just be careful of that, because if you do, for instance, a minus equals or a plus equals here, you're going to get behavior that you probably didn't want. And in this case, not only do I want to set the value to the new value, but I actually want to do some code, and that code is going to be emitting the signal that the health changed. So I'm going to do health changed dot emit, and now presumably when the health is changed, not only will it set the new value, but it'll also emit the signal. And so I'm going to run play, and when I damage the player, because the signal's wired up already, every time I click damage, I'm subtracting the player's health, and it's resizing the bar. And as you can see, you're actually seeing two different, you can see the variable being accessed down in the corner here. It's every time the variable is accessed, it's printing out the value. And each time we subtract one, that bar is getting updated. Now that even though we're just subtracting from this health, there's basically calling the function call. So that's the basics of it. It's really not terribly complicated. I mean, obviously, your variables, each variable, if you do have a setter and getter, can get pretty lengthy. But you can of course always collapse it, and to hide that. All right. The only other thing you can do here, so let me first show you what happens if you do a minus, and we can actually see why we're seeing these two health axes as well. So if you look, every time we set the value, so in this case, if we go back to here, we're setting the player's, we're getting the player's health and then setting it, so that's going to call the value once, and then it's actually going to get the variable one more time when we access it inside the function. So here we're subtracting it, and then we're also getting the variable here, and that's why it's showing up twice. All right, let me just show you what happens if we kind of mess this up. Let's go to the player, and we'll say health minus or plus equals the value, and of course we're subtracting, but if we hit play and I damage it, you can see some pretty bizarre behavior, and that's because, and you can actually see it's being accessed 3 times, and why is it being accessed 3 times? It's because you're not just setting the value, you're actually getting the value. Remember, plus equals is basically the same as saying equals health plus value. So this is actually calling the set function is actually calling the get function to get the health, and then reporting that it's being accessed. So again, that is not what you want. Just remember, generally you want to set it equal to the value, because you're essentially accessing it and then storing in a junky value. All right, the other way you can do it is, let's say you have something a lot more complicated and you just want to call special methods. You can do that. Just realize that the set has to have a value. If you try and just call set like that, it will warn you that it really needs to take a value, and obviously that makes sense. If you're setting it, you need to set it to something, so it's got to take a value. And that's going to be true for the methods that when we do the method way. So the method way is fairly similar, but instead of using get colon, if you want a getter function, we can make these functions here. Let's see, get health, and it'll return an int, since the health is an int, and we'll just return health. And then for the setter, I can show you, actually we can print get health is called, and then we can have another func called set health, and again we do need to give it a value, and we know it's going to be an int, and this one, since it's setting, is just going to return void, and we are going to simply set the health equals to the value. And in this case, we also wanted to emit our health change signal. Now, in order to do this the method way, we have these two methods, and instead of using get colon, we change the syntax a little bit, and we say get equals the name of the function get health, and then you do a comma instead of putting a new line and a colon, and then you can do set equals set health. And remember, it's not set health parentheses, it's set health because it's the function that's being called, not anything else. And of course, this code no longer makes sense. So let's just delete that. And now, it shouldn't complain. Okay, good. And now it should, let's do a print 2. And we'll just say set health was called. All right, and now when we hit play, you can see when we damage, get health was called. It was actually called 3 times, and it should be functioning basically the same way. But if you decide instead to not include the value, you're going to see an error pop up. All right, well, I hope that was helpful. It should be pretty straightforward. You definitely need to give it a function that that can give you sorry, actually, well, that's the reason it failed was because of this. So let's just do that. Stop that and save. But as you can see, set health can't be used as setter because of its signature, and again, the signature of the function needs to take a parameter. So now it should be fine, even though we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So it's not going to update because we don't have the, because we're not actually changing the value. All right.